So today we're here to talk about Disney's live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid. It made quite a splash, of course, but not in the way that they necessarily had hoped. The film was based, of course, on the beloved 1989 animated classic, which was incredibly successful, especially if you adjust for inflation. But this new live action suffered, well, a ton of challenges, from budget discrepancies to the impact of growing brand apathy. They had controversies surrounding casting choices and political backlash on top of it all. So today we're going to expose the true cost and all the complexities that Disney's Little Mermaid production went through, particularly how they lie about budgets. Here we go. So this is a story about a budget bloated beyond expectations, a fundamental lack of qualified leadership, and exposure of yet another financial catastrophe. Disney initially estimated the budget for The Little Mermaid to be around $250 million, but the film ended up costing nearly, if not more than $300 million so far disclosed. And there's no reason to believe that it won't eventually be revealed to be more. The primary reason for this budget overage is blamed on the global crisis. Obviously, delays, shutdowns, and safety protocols supposedly were increased to add significant expense to the production. And filming, initially slated for early 2020, didn't commence until January 2021 at Pinewood Studios in the United Kingdom. Delays, shutdowns, and safety protocols supposedly added significant expenses to this particular production, and filming, initially slated for early 2020, didn't commence until January of 2021, and that was at Pinewood Studios in the UK. The precautions that were taken there did not prevent any of the setbacks that they were set out to prevent, because several crew members reportedly contracted the illness that everybody was very worried about, and that supposedly increased costs even more. There's no way to verify that, and to be fair, that's been an excuse now for too many years. That actually brings us to the next thing. The neo-Marxist casting choices that Disney keeps making, which are always sparking controversy and backlash from a fan base that just wants, if you're gonna remake something anyway, a reasonable representation of what they saw in the animated version. One of the notable departures from this 1989 film was casting Halle Berry, who's a black actress, as the character of Ariel. And this casting choice ignited, I guess, a wave of backlash with the Not My Ariel hashtag campaign on social media, which, to be completely transparent, I was not even aware existed. And then, unsubstantiated claims about review bombing were repeated about this film, just like every other time a studio ham-fists the neo-Marxism messages into a remake or a supposed reimagining. Now, the IMDb was supposedly seeing negative reviews pile up, and of course, as it is in the playbook, the media runs with its narrative that bots posted those negative reviews in an attempt to lower the movie's average score. It's pretty predictable now, and you can set your watch by all of the claim cycles that every single one of these projects go through. All the way to the end, of course, where the media tries to cling to any credibility by releasing articles, well, months after the fact, that the film was actually bad and the criticisms were actually valid. We're actually starting to see the close of that loop right now with The Little Mermaid. In fact, you can see in the article that Forbes just published about the cost overruns that really kind of inspired this video. And that brings us to the heart of the audience reception domestically and abroad, which centered around CGI criticisms and, of course, the reception of the critics. You see, the main reason The Little Mermaid was criticized was because of its CGI graphics. Some reviewers and audience members found the CGI characters a bit unsettling, citing unnatural facial expressions and eerie aesthetics. Even the alt-leftist publication Vox noted that these depictions triggered an uneasy response from viewers. And of course, these factors contributed to the film's critics score of just 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, though the audience score was considerably higher, somehow, at 94%. But as we now know, RT is not all that reliable, as anything there can be bot farmed, and critics can be bought off for about $50 a review. That was an unsettling revelation, wasn't it? That was just a couple weeks ago. Now, the real truth can usually be found at the end of the consumer cycle when it comes to films. And in this case, obviously, that's the final box office numbers, and that was a huge disappointment for this film. And I would say most Disney films nowadays. Despite the high hopes for Little Mermaid at the box office, the film's performance fell well short of its expectations. Over the Memorial Day opening weekend, it only grossed $95.5 million, which I guess at the time surpassed Aladdin's remake of $91.5 million in 2019, but we all know the difference in ticket prices and inflation. And it failed to reach the $115 to $120 million range that was originally projected domestically. Internationally, the film then struggled in many markets, including the dismal opening in China, and the international box office only contributed about, well, under 50% of the total box office earnings. The worldwide gross actually only ended up being $569.6 million. Now, this figure is, well, an embarrassment, as it pales in comparison to the successes of Disney's previous live-action adaptations like The Lion King and Aladdin, especially when adjusted for inflation, as I mentioned before. As it seems to be the norm now, it's financial transparency in the UK to the rescue, and this actually helps show just how far Disney has fallen, and it's off a cliff. A new welcome reality now has arrived with the desire to make films in other countries. In the case of The Little Mermaid, the level of financial disclosure required by the UK government is eye-opening. To benefit from the UK's film tax relief scheme, studios must reveal detailed financial information about their productions. Disney's subsidiary, Sandcastle Pictures, made The Little Mermaid and had to provide financial statements that disclosed expenses, staff numbers, and cash reimbursements from the UK government. These types of disclosures are where WDW Pro, Valiant Renegade, and many others get their jaw-dropping numbers from for all of Disney's colossal failures, past, present, and of course future. These statements revealed by August 31st of 2022, almost a year before the film released, that Disney had spent $297 million on the film, with a substantial portion of that covering staffing costs. Now, in true woke fashion, the production faced criticisms for gender pay disparities, with women occupying only 17% of the highest paid roles, and significantly less on average compared to their male counterparts. Now, this is an important point for the author of the Forbes article to make here, as she is a pusher of the message, a big pusher, at what I would say was a formerly respected financial rag. So much for reimagining tomorrow, right? Just another Disney lie. But that brings us to the true bottom line, which is really the whole point of the video. And while the financial statements show that Disney received $56.8 million from the UK government, that only reduced net spending to $240.2 million. They don't account for the marketing costs or any other sources of revenue or expense, so it's really not even the full picture. And we know it's not the complete picture yet, because the numbers we aren't even through the end of, well, what would have been all of the post-production and everything else that got added on. Of course, I am sure that taxpayers in the UK are absolutely thrilled about this. They're so thrilled, in fact, that the box office there only brought in $34.1 million, in fact. Yes, that's actually $22.7 million less than the incentive provided, which leads to the analytical conclusion that people in the UK did not value this project for its incentive value. Now, while it's true that studios earn income from various avenues, such as, well, DVD sales and merchandise like toys and shirts and stuff, it's also true that these sources of revenue are now in the toilet for pretty much all of Disney. Toy sales have collapsed, especially on the woke projects, and DVD Blu-ray sales are not much to mention. This film was miles away from profitable when it closed in theaters, and is still sitting at least $150 million in the red, and that's being rather kind on my part. I think it's important to add that I'm tired of financial publications and trades alike trying to offer up that meeting reported production costs are the same things as breaking even. Even with the hedge that Caroline added to the end of her Forbes article here, that expenses could be, well, make the film unprofitable, that's just ludicrous. It's like saying that I paid the equivalent of my mortgage back to the bank and then just ignoring all the interest that I still owed on the home, essentially insinuating that the house was actually paid for when you're miles away from it. Just stop making those payments and then see what happens. At the end of it all, of course, as modern Disney projects go, this one was a failure, culturally, societally, and financially. It also drove home more Disney apathy than ever before globally on the part of the audience. So you have ballooning budgets, casting controversies, and an ever-increasing amount of CGI criticisms that are pretty much the new legacy of Disney now. Box office success is the measure of films, and this one failed spectacularly. And it's now a pattern of failure that comes down to one simple truth. Get woke, go broke. Learn fast, Disney, or you may find yourself broken up and sold for parts really, really soon. And with that, thanks for watching today, and on the way out, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe if you haven't already. About 40% of you still aren't subscribed. I would consider that a huge favor, and it would certainly make it so you don't miss a video or a live stream. Leave your own thoughts down in the comment section below, and until next time, see ya!